develop scar tissue around an injury, and that certainly can block the flow of energy.
And
so
sometimes
that's one
the trauma
example.
can actually be psychological.
I was just going to say, emotions can scar us as well. Something that happened to you a long time ago, or maybe more recently. I can think of examples of people who they hold their energy so tightly, say in their midsection, for example, that they forget to breathe. So the energy's not flowing. I mean, it's got to, certainly we have energy up here and in the heart, the brain, but it needs to go to the lower body as well. You know, that's why we need our legs, we need our hips, we need our abdomen. But if our energy is all up here,
right,
we're not getting the full feeling down there. I mean, it's why you know, you ever meet somebody who's really clumsy, they're always tripping over things because they're not getting the attention into their feet and their legs. And everything's from here up, so they're, you know, they're constantly falling.
That's interesting. One of the things I found that when I first went to visit you for acupuncture, it was the first time I had ever visited an acupuncturist. So I tend, as you know, to be somewhat of a high-strung person. I can't even sit still when I go for a manicure or anything like that because I always feel like I'm wasting my time. And I found that since I was almost like a captive audience because I had these needles in me, that it almost forced me to relax. And I found that it was such a significant thing because if you remember, I almost fell asleep, and I never do anything like that. So, and I felt great, and I have sent many patients to you because I find that, especially with people who are really high strung, that I don't know if it's just kind of making the pathways for the chi to flow better, or if it's just the fact that you're there, and I don't know what it is, but it actually makes you feel better.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a scientific explanation for why you feel good with acupuncture. Endorphins. You know, the same chemicals that our bodies make in response to exercise, the runner's high. It makes you feel relaxed. It makes you feel maybe a little drowsy, kind of in that halfway state between sleep and being in a meditative state and being aware. And many of my clients do fall asleep on the table because they're so relaxed. But it is also about taking time. When someone comes into my office and they know that they've got an hour away from what's going on in their lives, it's like an oasis.
Right.
You know, young mothers who they're away from their children for an hour and they get to really relax. They don't get that. I mean, they don't get the ability to really relax at other times. So coming into my office is like we set aside time for them to really rest, recuperate, but we're setting the tone, I think, for them to be able to do that when they're away from the office. I mean, the whole point is not for people to be dependent on coming for acupuncture treatments. It's wonderful while they're there, but the point is to get them on their own healing curve.
Right.
So that they begin doing things for themselves, whether it's to eat differently, or maybe to become more conscious of how they're spending their time, or maybe learning how to relax, learning how to take a few moments out of the day. Say, even if it's before they go to bed at night, to just sit there quietly, perhaps meditate, perhaps not, but just to get into a relaxed state and to see that they can actually do all these things for their own health. I'm just a facilitator. I'm really kind of a guide helping them to their own path towards health, but it's their health.
And it's almost, people need to know that it's okay to give yourself permission to do these things, to say that,
Right.
okay, I'm taking this time for myself. I get a lot of patients who come in and they're really stressed, and you try to give them modalities to alleviate the stress, whether it's working out, if that's what they want to do, whether it's meditating. And the big issue is always time. And it's not so much the time, but it's giving yourself permission to take a block of time for yourself.
That's right.
And that's the key, because it's no, I have to do this, I have to do that. And we're, especially as women, not that men aren't, but especially as women, we're responsible for so much that we often need someone to say it's okay to take the time out for yourself.
Absolutely. And honestly, it doesn't even take that much time. If you could spend 5 minutes just being quiet and centered and grounded, that's 5 minutes that gives you the next 15 minutes or hour better ability to deal with whatever's thrown at you. So that, you know, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, or an animal runs out in front of you while you're driving, or your child does something that you think is dangerous and you react quickly, but you can do it in a calm way, and to really be centered, and also, you know, let's face it, we affect how others feel around us too. So if we can learn to be calmer, just think of how much we're doing for those who we love and care about around us.
Oh, that's very true, because I'll read about how bosses who come in and they're wired and they're crazy, how it has a ripple effect, and the staff becomes less productive because they're on edge.
Absolutely.
And yet, if you're calm, you treat people with a sense of calm and a sense of respect, how much more productive the workplace becomes.
That's right. And it's incredible. I mean, I've worked in corporate life, so I know what it's like. And, you know, I've had experience with all kinds of bosses, but believe me, the ones that had the most effect on me, a positive effect, that got the most out of me, were the ones that understood how to nurture me and give me a little leeway for my own creativity, and believed in me and gave me positive feedback, not negative. Hey, the minute somebody starts criticizing me, I get like, you know, oh, what if I do this? I'll make a mistake. And when people are so afraid of making mistakes, that's when they actually happen more.
Right.
And you're not fostering creativity. You're not fostering the best that someone can do. It really all comes down to power and empowering others as well as yourself is, you know, gets the best possible results.
I think that we're just not aware of that, because bosses are so stressed, and we just don't know how to relax. I do these talks on stress reduction, and I always open it up with this slide that was actually a postcard that I got in medical school. And it's like a side view of a man, and inside it's wires and tension wires, and they're like, you know, springs and all this stuff that basically connect his head, and it's like a side view. And the caption is, "Don't tell me to relax, it's only my tension that's holding me together." And I got it actually when I was in undergraduate, and it was in my desk where I would study. And I still have it in my office. It's right next to my desk, and I always look at that. And that's how I begin the talk on stress. And even if it's just something as simple as teaching people how to breathe. And that's what I started out with, because, you know, when you're anxious, your breathing gets fast. When you're scared, and it can just bring you down. And I do this talk and I demonstrate it with people at the lecture, and it's amazing to see how at first, you know, you can see people sometimes, especially if you're doing it for a corporation, because they're like, oh my God, you know, they're forcing me to sit here and listen to this crazy woman, and I really could be making all these phone calls, but they're a captive audience. And if you start, you can see the change when they're forced, like, okay, well, you have to do this breathing, so let's just do the breathing. But you see like this change in the whole atmosphere of the room when people kind of just relax.
Right.